The power of daily affirmation lies in its ability to rewire the human mind. At its core, an affirmation is a statement that one repeats consciously to influence thoughts, emotions, and behaviors in a positive direction. These statements are typically framed in the present tense and with a positive tone, such as "I am capable," "I deserve love," or "I trust myself." While they may seem simple, the underlying mechanism behind their effectiveness is supported by cognitive psychology, neuroscience, and behavioral science. Our minds are shaped by repetition. From a young age, we absorb information from our environment, the things we hear, the words we speak, the beliefs of those around us, and over time, these inputs shape our internal dialogue. This internal dialogue, often referred to as self-talk, influences how we view ourselves and the world. Unfortunately, much of this self-talk is negative and automatic. We criticize ourselves for mistakes, compare ourselves to others, or replay memories that reinforce feelings of inadequacy. These thoughts become habitual, forming neural pathways in the brain that reinforce a cycle of self-doubt, fear, and low self-worth. Daily affirmations work by interrupting this cycle. When we intentionally speak positive, supportive words to ourselves each day, we begin to challenge the negative beliefs that have taken root in our subconscious. At first, these new messages may feel unnatural or even untrue. But over time, with consistent repetition, the brain begins to accept them as new truths. This is not a matter of wishful thinking. Rather, it is about using the brain's plasticity, its ability to change and form new neural connections to our advantage. Affirmations serve as a daily mental exercise. Just as physical exercise strengthens the body, mental repetition of empowering statements strengthens emotional resilience and clarity. The more we repeat a thought, the more familiar it becomes. The more familiar it becomes, the more believable it feels. Eventually, these thoughts can influence how we react to challenges, how we treat ourselves, and how we approach life decisions. It's important to understand that affirmations are not about denying reality or avoiding problems. They are about aligning our mindset with growth, healing, and strength. For example, if someone is facing a difficult time in their personal life, saying, "I am strong enough to handle this," does not erase the hardship, but it does reinforce a sense of agency and inner strength. In this way, affirmations help us shift from a mindset of helplessness to one of empowerment. Another important aspect is the emotional tone behind the words. Simply repeating phrases without engagement will have limited impact. The key is to say them with emotion, presence, and belief, even if that belief is only partial at the beginning. Emotion acts as a glue that helps new thoughts stick. When you say, "I am worthy," and you truly feel the weight of those words, the affirmation becomes more than just a sentence. It becomes a declaration of value that your mind begins to internalize. Research in positive psychology has also found that regular affirmation practice can reduce stress, improve academic and work performance, and increase overall well-being. These effects are not immediate, and they require consistency, but they are real and measurable. This is why many therapists, coaches, and educators encourage the use of affirmations in daily routines. To make affirmations more effective, it's recommended to combine them with other mindfulness practices, such as journaling or meditation. Writing affirmations down by hand can reinforce their impact. Saying them aloud while looking in the mirror can create a deeper connection. Repeating them during moments of quiet, like right after waking up or before going to bed, can help the mind absorb them more fully. Ultimately, the power of daily affirmations is not about magic, it's about mental training. Just like we would not expect to become physically fit by exercising once, we should not expect our thoughts to change from one affirmation session. But with regular, heartfelt practice, affirmations can create a powerful shift in our mental landscape. They can become a tool for emotional regulation, self-compassion, and personal transformation, one small phrase at a time. The concept of the mind-body connection is rooted in the understanding that our thoughts, emotions, and mental state can significantly influence our physical health. For many years, Western medicine approached the body and mind as two separate entities. However, both modern scientific research and ancient holistic practices have increasingly confirmed that the two are deeply interconnected. What we think and feel on a daily basis does not remain confined to the brain. It communicates with the body through a complex network of hormones, neurotransmitters, and the nervous system. Let's begin by understanding how thoughts influence the body physiologically. Every thought we have triggers a cascade of biochemical reactions in the brain. For instance, when we think a fearful thought, the brain interprets it as a real threat. This leads to the release of stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline, preparing the body for the well-known fight or flight response. The heart rate increases, digestion slows, muscles tense, and the immune system temporarily weakens. Now, imagine this happening not just once, but repeatedly, day after day, as a result of chronic negative thinking or unresolved emotional stress. Over time, this pattern can contribute to conditions such as anxiety, high blood pressure, digestive disorders, and even weakened immunity. On the other hand, positive and calming thoughts lead to the release of different chemicals, like serotonin, dopamine, and endorphins, that promote relaxation, well-being, and healing. These chemicals can lower blood pressure, improve sleep quality, enhance immune function, and create a general sense of vitality. In this way, the body responds not just to the physical environment, but also to the emotional climate we maintain in our minds. Affirmations and positive self-talk are practical tools that help us use the mind-body connection for our benefit. When we repeat positive statements, we not only influence the way we feel emotionally, but we also set the stage for the body to relax, repair, and function more efficiently. For example, saying "I feel calm and centered" during a stressful situation may help regulate breathing and heart rate, thereby reducing the intensity of the body's stress response. These small, intentional thoughts are like instructions we give to our nervous system. When repeated regularly, they create new patterns of balance between mind and body. Emotions also play a significant role in this dynamic. Emotions are not just mental states, they are deeply physiological experiences. Joy, anger, sadness, fear, and love all produce distinct physical sensations. When emotions are not expressed or processed, they often manifest in the body as tension, discomfort, or illness. For example, prolonged grief can suppress immune function. Unresolved anger may contribute to hypertension. Chronic anxiety can lead to gastrointestinal issues. Therefore, paying attention to one's emotional health is a critical aspect of physical well-being. Furthermore, mindfulness-based practices such as meditation, deep breathing, and yoga serve as bridges between the mind and body. These practices quiet the mind, calm the nervous system, and enhance the body's natural healing processes. Affirmations, when used alongside these techniques, can deepen their effectiveness. For instance, silently repeating "I am safe," while practicing slow breathing can help calm the body's stress response more effectively than either practice alone. Understanding the mind-body connection also helps us take more responsibility for our overall health. It shifts our view from being passive recipients of illness to active participants in our healing. It encourages us to pay attention not just to what we eat or how much we exercise, but also to the quality of our thoughts and the emotions we carry each day. A balanced diet and regular movement are vital, but so is the cultivation of a calm, hopeful, and compassionate mind. In summary, the mind and body are not separate systems. They are parts of one integrated whole. Every thought sends a message to the body, and every physical sensation feeds back into the mind. By nurturing a more positive and mindful internal dialogue, we don't just improve our mental health. we support our entire well-being. Through daily affirmations, emotional awareness, and intentional thought patterns, we engage in a powerful form of self-care that honors the deep and vital connection between the mind and the body. Reprogramming self-talk is one of the most transformative practices for improving mental and emotional well-being. At its core, self-talk refers to the internal dialogue that runs through our minds each day, conversations we have with ourselves, often without even realizing it. This inner voice can be encouraging and supportive, or it can be highly critical and destructive. What many people don't realize is that much of this self-talk has been shaped unconsciously over time, often through early experiences, cultural messaging, or repeated exposure to negativity. The good news is that self-talk can be changed or reprogrammed through intentional practice, and daily affirmations are one of the most effective tools for doing just that. To begin understanding self-talk, consider that the average person has tens of thousands of thoughts per day. Studies suggest that a large percentage of these thoughts are repetitive, and unfortunately, many of them are negative. For example, someone might repeatedly think, "I'm not good enough," "I always mess things up," or "no one really cares about me." These thoughts may seem minor in isolation, but when repeated regularly, they shape the person's belief system. Over time, they influence self-image, decision-making, and even physical health. This is where reprogramming comes into play. Just as a computer program can be updated or rewritten to function more efficiently, the mind's habitual thought patterns can be consciously changed. Reprogramming doesn't mean pretending that everything is perfect or ignoring real problems. Rather, it means choosing to challenge and replace unhelpful or harmful beliefs with thoughts that are empowering and constructive. For example, the belief "I always fail" can be restructured into "I learn and grow from every experience." The content of the thought changes, but more importantly, so does its emotional impact and the behavior it encourages. Affirmations are a structured method of reprogramming self-talk. They are concise, positive, and present, tense statements designed to replace limiting beliefs. When used daily, affirmations act like new instructions being fed into the brain's operating system. Instead of reinforcing past fears or insecurities, they open up space for confidence, clarity, and self-worth. For example, repeating "I am capable and resourceful" every day helps cultivate a mindset that actively looks for solutions rather than obstacles. The key to effective self-talk reprogramming is consistency and emotional engagement. Simply saying affirmations without meaning or repetition will not lead to deep change. But when affirmations are practiced with genuine feeling and over an extended period, they begin to overwrite older, limiting mental patterns. The brain is especially receptive to new input during transitional moments, right after waking up, just before sleep, or during moments of emotional calm. Using affirmations at these times can deepen their impact. It's also helpful to identify the source of negative self-talk. Often, the critical inner voice echoes something we once heard from a parent, teacher, or peer. Recognizing that these voices are learned, not innate, gives us the power to challenge and change them. We are not born thinking we are unworthy. We learn it, and what is learned can be unlearned. In cognitive, behavioral psychology, a similar principle is used in therapy. Clients are encouraged to notice negative thought patterns known as automatic thoughts, evaluate their accuracy, and replace them with more realistic or positive alternatives. This mirrors the process of affirmation practice. It's a skill that improves with time and conscious effort. The more one engages in it, the more natural and automatic positive self-talk becomes. Importantly, reprogramming self-talk also influences how we treat others. When our inner dialogue becomes more compassionate and understanding, we are more likely to extend the same grace and patience to those around us. In this way, the benefits of self-talk reprogramming go beyond personal development. They also support healthier relationships, communication, and empathy. In conclusion, reprogramming self-talk is a powerful, achievable goal that begins with awareness and intention. By choosing to replace critical inner messages with positive affirmations, we actively reshape the beliefs that guide our lives. This process helps us build a stronger foundation of self-respect, confidence, and emotional resilience. Over time, we begin to think, feel, and act in ways that reflect a healthier, more empowered version of ourselves, one that speaks not with doubt, but with clarity, encouragement, and purpose. When it comes to creating meaningful and lasting change in our lives, whether it's building confidence, improving mental health, or overcoming deeply rooted self-doubt, consistency is key. This principle holds true for almost every kind of personal development, and daily affirmations are no exception. While a single positive thought can momentarily uplift us, it is the repetition of positive, intentional thoughts over time that truly begins to transform our mindset and reshape our internal belief systems. Let's begin with a simple truth. Our brains are constantly learning. Every experience, every thought, every repeated action shapes the neural pathways in our minds. This concept is known as neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to reorganize itself by forming new connections. But just as negative thoughts and harmful beliefs can become deeply ingrained through repetition, so too can positive and constructive ones. The difference lies in how often and how consistently we reinforce them. Affirmations serve as a mental training exercise. Like physical fitness, mental conditioning does not yield results after a single session. You don't become physically strong after going to the gym once, and you don't develop unwavering self-worth from saying "I am worthy" one time. Instead, consistency is what gradually builds strength, mental, emotional, and psychological. When we say affirmations daily, we are feeding the mind the same empowering message repeatedly until it begins to accept and internalize it as truth. Consistency also works on a deeper psychological level, our subconscious mind, the part responsible for habits, automatic reactions, and deeply held belief, responds most strongly to repetition. The more often it hears a message, especially if that message is accompanied by emotion and intent, the more likely it is to adopt it as a new belief. Over time, what once felt like just words begins to influence how we think, how we speak, and how we behave. Let's consider a practical example. Suppose someone has carried a belief since childhood that they are not smart enough. This belief may have been shaped by negative school experiences or unkind comments. Every time that person fails or struggles with something, their mind echoes the old message, "See, I'm not smart." But if that same person begins a daily affirmation practice, repeating something like "I am intelligent and capable of learning anything I choose," they begin to interrupt the old pattern. At first, the new thought may feel fake or forced. But with daily repetition, the brain starts to lay down new pathways. Eventually, this message becomes more familiar, more accepted, and eventually more natural. That's the power of consistency. Another reason consistency is essential is because change rarely happens in a straight line. Life is full of ups and downs. Motivation may come and go. On some days, it's easy to feel positive. On other days, it feels like a struggle. This is exactly why consistency is so important. It acts as a steady foundation even when emotions fluctuate. By committing to daily affirmations, regardless of mood or circumstance, you build discipline and reinforce the idea that your thoughts are within your control. It's also worth noting that consistent practice builds trust with yourself. Each time you return to your affirmations, you are making a promise to prioritize your well-being. You are telling yourself, "I matter enough to speak to myself kindly every day." That daily act of self-respect builds confidence and inner strength over time. To make affirmation practice more consistent, it's helpful to pair it with an existing routine. Say your affirmations while brushing your teeth, during your morning walk, or right before bed. Write them in a journal. Set reminders. Keep a list of your favorite affirmations visible on a mirror, on your phone wallpaper, or at your workspace. These small cues reinforce the habit and make it easier to maintain, even on challenging days. In conclusion, the real power of affirmations lies not in their individual words, but in their repeated, consistent use. With each repetition, we teach our minds a new way to see the world and ourselves. We build mental habits that support healing, growth, and resilience. Consistency creates momentum, and momentum leads to transformation. The more often we speak kindly to ourselves, the more naturally it becomes our default language, and over time, that changes everything. Emotional healing is a complex and deeply personal journey, but one of its most accessible and effective tools is the intentional use of words. Many people underestimate the power language has in shaping our internal world. Words are not just tools for communication. They are containers for meaning, memory, emotion, and belief. The words we say to ourselves, especially in moments of vulnerability, can either deepen our wounds or begin the healing process. That is why affirmations, simple, positive statements we repeat daily, are far more than motivational phrases. They are a form of emotional medicine. When someone experiences emotional pain, whether from trauma, loss, rejection, or prolonged self-criticism, that pain often becomes lodged in the subconscious mind. Over time, this unprocessed pain forms limiting beliefs such as "I'm not good enough," "I don't deserve happiness," or "I'm unlovable." These beliefs become so deeply ingrained that they feel like truths, not opinions. Every new life experience is then filtered through this lens, reinforcing the original wound. Affirmations are a way to interrupt this cycle. When we begin to speak words of comfort, encouragement, and self-love to ourselves, we challenge the emotional residue left behind by past experiences. For example, saying "I am worthy of love and respect" may feel unfamiliar or even uncomfortable at first, but that discomfort is a sign that healing is needed. The repetition of such affirmations gradually softens emotional resistance and creates space for new emotional experiences. We begin to believe that healing is not only possible, but within reach. Words have energy. Neuroscience and psychology both confirm that language can directly influence our emotional state. When we hear a kind word, especially from ourselves, it activates the brain's reward system, releasing neurotransmitters like dopamine and oxytocin. These feel-good chemicals help regulate mood and support emotional resilience. Conversely, harsh or critical words can increase levels of cortisol, the stress hormone, leading to heightened anxiety and emotional distress. This means that the words we choose, internally and externally, have a real biological impact on our emotional health. One of the most effective ways to use affirmations for emotional healing is to speak directly to the wound. Rather than avoiding emotional pain, we acknowledge it with compassion. For instance, someone carrying guilt might say, "I forgive myself and allow myself to grow." Someone dealing with abandonment may affirm, "I am whole and I belong." These are not empty phrases. They are deliberate, targeted expressions that counteract the emotional messages left behind by past experiences. Over time, these words begin to rewrite the narrative we hold about ourselves and our worth. It's important to approach this practice with patience and gentleness. Emotional wounds, especially long-standing ones, do not heal overnight. Just as a physical wound requires consistent care, emotional healing through words takes daily, intentional effort. You may not feel an immediate shift, and that's okay. The point is not to force yourself to feel better instantly, but to create an environment where healing is invited, encouraged, and sustained. In addition to spoken affirmations, writing them can deepen their emotional impact. Journaling allows you to explore your emotions more fully and record your healing progress. Some people find it helpful to write a letter to their younger self using affirmations of love and reassurance. Others might keep a list of affirmations that address different aspects of their emotional life: self, worth, forgiveness, trust, resilience, and rotate them based on what they feel that day. This personalizes the practice and makes it more emotionally relevant. Affirmations also teach us emotional responsibility. They remind us that while we may not be to blame for the wounds we carry, we are responsible for our healing. This isn't about ignoring pain or pretending to be happy. It's about giving ourselves the support and kindness we may never have received in the past. When you say to yourself, "I am healing more each day," you are not denying your past. You are choosing to write a new future. In conclusion, emotional healing through words is a process of transformation. By consciously choosing affirmations that speak to your inner pain, you begin to shift from a place of suffering to a place of self-compassion. The more often you speak healing into your life, the more you become a safe space for your own heart. In doing so, you not only repair what was once broken, you create a foundation for lasting emotional strength and peace. Empowerment begins with a simple yet profound realization. You have a choice in how you think, how you respond, and how you see yourself. While we cannot control every circumstance in life, we can always choose how we interpret our experiences and how we speak to ourselves about them. This power of choice is at the heart of self-empowerment and personal transformation. When we intentionally choose thoughts that uplift us, such as those found in affirmations, we reclaim our agency and begin to shape our lives from the inside out. In many situations, people feel powerless because they have unknowingly surrendered their mental space to automatic negative thoughts. These thought patterns are often inherited from past experiences, cultural conditioning, or early influences. For example, someone may have been repeatedly criticized as a child and thus internalized a voice that constantly says, "You're not good enough." If left unchallenged, this inner narrative becomes the default mindset, subtly guiding decisions, behaviors, and emotional reactions. However, this is where the principle of choice comes in. By recognizing that thoughts are not facts, but rather mental habits, we gain the power to shift our focus. When we consciously decide to speak to ourselves with compassion and encouragement, we interrupt the old narrative. Saying an affirmation like "I choose to believe in myself" is not just a motivational phrase. It's a declaration of authority over one's own mind. It reflects a conscious decision to think differently, to feel differently, and to live differently. This practice of choosing thoughts is aligned with psychological models like cognitive behavioral therapy (CBT), which teaches that our thoughts influence our emotions and behaviors. By changing the thought, we change the emotional and behavioral outcome. The same is true with affirmations. When we affirm "I am capable," "I am deserving," or "I am in charge of my own happiness," we're not denying our struggles. We're choosing to shift our perspective toward one that empowers rather than diminishes. It's important to understand that making empowered choices does not mean ignoring reality or forcing positivity. Rather, it's about recognizing that even in challenging situations, you can choose how you respond internally. For instance, in the face of failure, one person might think, "I'm a failure," while another might think, "This is an opportunity to learn and grow." The event is the same, the difference lies in the chosen perspective. One disempowers, the other empowers. Affirmations support this process by offering us a vocabulary of empowerment. They remind us that we are not at the mercy of our circumstances or past. Every time we choose to say, "I release fear and embrace trust," we make a subtle but significant decision to move away from paralysis and toward action. Every time we affirm, "I am enough as I am," we choose to anchor ourselves in self-acceptance rather than self-judgment. The concept of empowerment through choice also extends to how we structure our day, how we treat our bodies, and how we interact with others. By choosing to start the day with positive affirmations, we set an intentional tone that influences how we navigate the hours ahead. This creates a ripple effect. Empowered thoughts lead to empowered actions, which lead to empowered results. It becomes a self-reinforcing cycle of growth. Moreover, choosing empowering thoughts fosters self-trust. Each time you override a self-critical thought with a kind one, you build trust in your ability to care for yourself. You begin to see yourself as an ally, not an enemy. This internal alliance is what allows you to face challenges with courage and make decisions that align with your values and goals. It strengthens your emotional core. In essence, empowerment is not a destination, it's a daily practice. It is made up of hundreds of small moments when you choose self-respect over self-doubt, courage over fear, and progress over perfection. Affirmations serve as reminders of this choice. They bring clarity in moments of confusion, calm in times of stress, and strength in the face of uncertainty. To conclude, empowerment through choice is a liberating truth. You may not choose what happens to you, but you can always choose what you say to yourself about it. That inner dialogue becomes the foundation on which your confidence, resilience, and self-worth are built. When you choose to speak with kindness and strength, you affirm not only a new mindset, but a new way of living.